We have so much to cover and so little time. So let me just go through a couple of things. The ransomware attacks. I've never heard a president say, well, it's a private issue and the president should just, or I mean, these companies, they have to decide whether they pay the blackmail. Stunning.
Glenn,
Can you tell me, go ahead.
Yeah, this is an attack on America. And it came through a commercial attack, right? It came through an attack on a commercial enterprise, but the capacity for pipelines to move product around our East Coast is an American national security interest. To suggest for a moment that we're going to hand this over to some private entity, oh goodness, it's about like handing over your social media to these big old nasty social media companies. We have to help these businesses protect their systems, and then it has to be a national effort to impose costs on those who put American lives at risk by denying us the ability to move product around our country.
So is there a strong enough connection between these hackers and Putin that we know Putin at least knows about it and is okaying it with a wink and a nod?
Glenn, I can't tell you about this particular incident and what we know because I was out of government. But what I can say this, all the hallmarks of what took place here suggest this is some folks who are operating from Russian soil in a space that is almost certainly underwritten by one of Vladimir Putin's buddies, the oligarch system. And Putin, at the very least, is turning a blind eye to it and probably more. And so it's appropriate to hold Vladimir Putin and the Russians accountable for the actions taking place inside of their own country. And we've got to do it, and there are tools by which we can.
Let me just quickly, it looks like, well, it doesn't look like, I know it just happened. State Department was investigating COVID and the Wuhan lab and everything else. And Biden just took that and shut that down and moved it over to the CIA. My theory is that way he doesn't have to release anything because it can, intelligence can be, can be held as top secret. Was there evidence on this Wuhan lab when you were in office, and are we ever going to hear what really happened?
So, Glenn, I have a unique perspective, having led both the CIA and the State Department consecutively. When I was a Secretary of State, when the Wuhan virus was foisted upon the world by the Chinese Communist Party, we began to move heaven and earth to try and figure out what happened. We had the tools to try and figure out if this was a part of a bioweapons effort on behalf of the CCP, and we learned a lot. And so, Glenn, while I can't tell your listeners today we know the answer with certainty, I am confident that this came from the virology lab. We know enough to say that. We also know enough to know they're continuing to cover it up, and so we know plenty to hold them accountable. There's no evidence this administration wants to confront that. 3 million people dead around the world, hundreds of thousands in the United States. Families still here in the United States upended by this thing. Kids having trouble coming out of these crazy lockdowns. The Chinese Communist Party has to be made to pay a price, at the least a price sufficient to make sure they'll do what they can to make sure something like this never happens again.
Talking to Mike Pompeo, you are starting what's called CAVPAC, CAV, Champion American Values, and also kind of a tip of the hat to your time in the Army as a cavalry officer. But it's CAVPAC, and it is looking to get real conservatives and real conservative candidates into the 2022 cycle. Tell me about it.
So, Glenn, I was a businessman in Kansas back in 2010 when Barack Obama was taking our country in the wrong direction. I gave up that wonderful life with my family back in Kansas to go run for Congress to throw Nancy Pelosi out. This effort is in those same lines. It's my effort from the place that I find myself today to lead what we've called CAVPAC. You're right. What does CAV do? It rides to the sound of the gun. It alerts. It sounds the siren when there's a real risk to something that matters an awful lot. And so we're going to go find conservative candidates, true believers in American workers and our American middle class. We're going to find them, and we're going to help them be successful getting elected, not just to take back the House and the Senate, but city council races. We did a state legislative race in New Hampshire last week. We're helping a fellow out. We've got to make sure that we drive this message and help good candidates get elected. And if you go to CAVPAC.com, I think you'll see there's real action and a real heart for delivering good outcomes for our country.
I'll tell you, Mike, I'm not only looking for people that understand, the average worker and how business is done, but I'm also looking for somebody who will stand up for the Constitution, because that thing is gone. I mean, we are not following it at all, it seems right now. And both parties seem to have, seem to play not an equal part, but a part in ignoring it when they want to.
Glenn, there's no doubt the party that I've been a part of for decades now has its own challenges. We've got to confront them. We got to take them on. When I was at the State Department, we engaged in a mission. To your point, the State Department lost its way talking about human rights. It was talking about things that were crazy. And so we created this commission designed to go back and talk about our founding. What is it that we really believe, and why do we believe, and how do we put forward these ideas, trying to get my diplomats around the world to understand that we shouldn't apologize for America. It's this exceptional country. So we went back and regrounded the work that we were doing. That's what America needs. It needs a regrounding in these first principles, the things, Glenn, that you and I learned in schools. We need to go teach them in our schools again. We're not doing that today. If we get that wrong, I joke, but I'm three-quarters serious. I met with the Taliban. I met with Chairman Kim. The biggest risk today is inside of our schools. If we don't get that right, if we're not brave enough and fearless enough to go stand up and demand that we teach our kids about the greatness of our nation, then this next generation will take us to a path where, as our founders knew, we could lose the republic.
So yesterday, I'm big on the Great Reset from the World Economic Forum. I mean, almost every politician around the world in the West is using Build Back Better, which is from the World Economic Forum. Yesterday, Biden gave a speech, and I'm going to talk about it here in a few minutes, but he gave a speech, and he said, for us to be able to best China, we all have to work together. Then he went through the stated goals. All of them were right directly from the Great Reset in the of the World Economic Forum. Do you think that there's an effort underway that these corporations and the government are starting to put a little private-public partnership together? Biden continuously says, it's a test. We're going to see in the next couple of years whether or not a democracy like ours can survive against these authoritarian states. They can just move quickly.
Glenn, it saddens me when I hear that. That's the story. When President Biden talks about we're back, he means back to Barack Obama. Right? That story that you hear is managing American decline. We can't. This is not America. We're going to win this. We've got to get it right, and we have to be fearless in doing so. When I hear them say that China presents a challenge, a challenge is figuring out whether you want to go to the store at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock. The threat is the Chinese Communist Party, and I saw the statement that came out this week. It's okay, but it doesn't begin to comprehend the threat that the Chinese Communist Party presents. And Glenn, you know this. It'll take American leadership to get this right. We're going to have to demonstrate that our businesses are prepared to sacrifice, and our businesses are prepared to be the technology leaders. And we're not going to suffer the Chinese Communist Party censorship and cancellation for our American companies. We're going to demand fair and free trade. If we get those things right, Glenn, America's going to push back against this threat from Xi Jinping and his commie buddies. We can do it. We've done it before, and it's just going to take American leadership to get it right. Sadly, we don't have a president that I think is prepared to do that today.
Do you stay in touch with President Trump? And if so, how's he doing?
I do. He's doing great. He wants to be part of the fight the same way I'm trying to work every day to be part of the fight. He knows that the things that we did these past 4 years made lives for ordinary Americans better. I think he's saddened to see what they've done in these first 100 days, too. We knew when you got President Biden, we knew what we were in for. I don't think any of us believed that the left had captured him so much that they would move this far, this left, this fast. And so time is nigh. We got to get after it. We got to win in 2022 and shorten the runway.
All right. So you are looking for people that want to run and need some help and some advice. You're looking for anybody who is running in 2022 at CAVPAC.com. CAVPAC.com, correct?
Correct. Only conservatives need apply, Glenn.
Again, Mike, thank you so much for everything that you have done as CIA director and Secretary of State. It was amazing to watch you guys. It really was. Thank you.
Well, bless you, Glenn. We'll talk again soon. So long, sir.
You got it.